Welcome back to the Mind Goals podcast hosted by yours truly, Siobhan Higgins, and today, Wednesday Adams. I am a sport and performance psychology consultant, professional soccer player, yoga instructor, and soccer coach. The Mind Goals podcast is a place that I've dedicated to hold space for myself, other athletes, and other athletic personnel so that we can converse, share our stories on how we acquired the mindset that we have today, all with the hopes that any listeners or viewers can all in all improve their mindset by what they've heard. So with that being said, today I'm really excited to introduce our special guest, a doctor of physical therapy, Dr. Eric Chicas. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, welcome to the pod.
Glad to be here.
I like to start my episodes basically by introducing like how we met. So our connection is that you are one of my physical therapists. As many people know, I tore my ACL. I'm like week 14.
Week 14.
Yeah, I'm week 14 now. It's so funny. I feel like it's like a baby, you know, like that's the way they refer to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm week 14. You are one of my physical therapists. I actually specifically chose the medical center because of you, because I was referred to you by Colin.
Yeah.
He spoke highly of you. And so I was like, I'm going to do the real deal. And so that's how I stumbled upon your clinic. And then my first PT, who is just now married. Congrats, Percy.
Congrats, Percy.
Yeah, person. But yeah, that's how we met. You are now my physical therapist, and now I'm going to have to choose or split time.
Split time.
Yeah, probably split time. I mean, you guys are all great, and it's cool to like get different perspectives on my exercises and, you know, divvy it up and not just always do BFR.
Sure.
But today I want to get to know you a little bit better and have the viewers like understand how you chose the path that you did, where you're from, and just a little bit about you.
Yeah.
And then fun fact for viewers and listeners is that I think Eric is a silly one in the office, and you will see that later when he asks his cool questions that always catch me off guard. But I think it's great for the environment of the clinic because it just like builds that team and it's evident. So people love going there because I just feel like you're a big part of that.
Yeah, we like to have fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, it is fun. I truly look forward to going to PT, which is like, well, you know, I don't know how many people say that, to be honest.
So I actually ask people that a lot. Like
really?
when we get a lot of people that transfer to our clinic, like they go somewhere else, like the vibe's not great or they're not doing great, and then they transfer over. And always my first question is like, what was the vibe in the clinic? What kind of music did they play? Like all that. I like to figure that out. But I'm shocked how many people come in and they say there was either no music playing or like there was just nothing going on, or crazy. I can't imagine going through an entire day just like in silence.
Yeah, because this is my second time, and the first clinic I liked the physical therapist and the clinic in general. But you know, I don't think that there was music playing. Now that I think about it, or if there was, it didn't register. Yeah,
the other thing I hear even from like our like younger adults is that they were like by far the youngest person in the clinic, and I just think a lot of like regular outpatient ortho clinics, it tends to have a little bit older of a crowd.
Yep.
Our clinic's a little different.
True. Yeah, because when Colin told me about the clinic, I was thinking like only athletes would go there, or only pros would go there, or whatnot. But it's diverse, right? Mm-hmm. It's for anyone and everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So a little bit about you. Mm-hmm. First of all, where are you originally from?
I was born and raised in New Jersey.
Okay.
So about 10 minutes outside of New York City.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And we talked about this, but because my dad used to work in New Jersey and Newark, like right across the Hudson.
Yeah.
Was that very close to you then?
Newark's about 20 minutes. So I'm like 20 minutes north of that. So I actually have to go south to get to Manhattan.
Okay. Oh, yes. You mentioned that because, funky
So I'm
shape.
way up like right where New Jersey meets New York State.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. And how long did you live there for?
Until I went to college, and then went to the University of Delaware for 4 years, and then stayed there for grad school for another 2.5, 3 years, and then moved down to Houston in 2009.
Okay. And what made you choose University of Delaware, and what was your major?
Yeah, so I majored in ex-phys. At the end, when I went to Delaware, I thought I wanted to teach and coach. I knew I needed to do something with either sports or kids or coaching in some capacity. Mm-hmm. So when I decided to go to Delaware, my first choice was actually to stay in state because my parents offered me a car if I stayed in state because the tuition was lower. So originally I had accepted a spot at Rowan, which is South Jersey, small school. And I had already had my room assignment, had my roommate, everything was set. And at the last minute, it just didn't feel right. And I told my mom that I was thinking a little bit more about going to Delaware. And so we ended up making another trip. Ooh. And we went to University of Delaware and I loved it. And that's when I decided that that's where I wanted to go. So I ended up going there. I was health and physical education. So I did 3 years of that. The only thing I had left to do was student teach. Okay. And right before that, I kind of just got the itch to look a little bit more into physical therapy. And I didn't really know what that involved or where it was offered or any of that. So as I started looking into it more, I realized that Delaware had one of the top programs in the country and I was already there. I talked to my parents. I kind of figured they would say, just finish what you started. And it was the exact opposite. They were like, this is what you want to do, like now's the time, like, switch and see how it goes.
Wow. Yeah. I smiled when you said that because all parents love saying that.
Right.
Finish what you started.
Yeah. And it was kind of the opposite. They were like, if this is where you feel you need to be, then now's the time to do it. So I ended up switching my major. I had taken a lot of the higher level courses, but I had to go back and do some of the basic stuff. So my senior year of undergrad was like bio, chem, physics, like all the hard classes. It sucked. But it ended up adding an extra semester. I thought it was going to be more, but one extra semester to my undergrad. Okay. So I graduated from undergrad and I was looking at a couple different PT schools, one of which was staying at Delaware. And so they just had such a good program. I couldn't justify leaving. So I ended up staying there. And then that in turn, so that decision to switch my major led me to do PT school at Delaware. And then that decision led me to have a choice of a couple cool rotations as a grad student. And so one of those was going down to Birmingham, Alabama and working with Dr. James Andrews and Kevin Wilk and that group, which is, they're world renowned. They're fantastic. And so through that connection, I was able to kind of link up with Russ Payne and the guys here in Houston. The timing worked out great. They needed somebody at the time. And I saw that clinic and it was awesome. So I've been there now for 15 years.
Wow. At the clinic that I know you from. Wow. Okay. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. June of 2009.
That's awesome. When? I was about to say, when's the anniversary? I guess next year now.
Yeah.
Do you ever celebrate your anniversary?
Yeah, we get a little. Well, now it's like a little cardboard like plaque, but yeah. No, it's. I remember it vividly because I started the week of my birthday. Okay. But I didn't know anybody and nobody knew it was my birthday.
Yeah.
So
that's so sad.
Yeah. I was fine with it. I'm not a big birthday guy, but I remember like coming home and calling my parents and they were like, "Oh, did everybody celebrate your birthday?" I was like, "I don't think anybody knows it's my birthday."
Yeah. I'm such a big birthday person. Like even if people don't know mine, I love to celebrate people because it's like your day, I want to make them feel special. So that's kind of sad. But yeah. But hopefully everyone listening at the clinic, big birthday week.
Yeah. June 24th.
Okay, nice. And what made you choose? So obviously you said you did your 3 years and then the last one you were like, let me try physical therapy. But did you play sports? Like what inclined you to change your major? Because it's specific and you got to dedicate it.
Yeah. So growing up, I was a huge fan of just all sports. I watched everything, played, everything. I played soccer, football, basketball, baseball, golf, pretty much everything, right? Wow. So I had a little bit of that background, just being involved in all sports and enjoying all sports. And so I wasn't really aware of physical therapy, to be honest, when I went to undergrad, which is why I chose health and phys ed. It just seemed like it made the most sense. And as I started kind of doing a little bit more digging, this will date me, but it was pre-internet. So you'd have these, right? Well, I guess internet was invented. It just didn't do much. But you'd have these superstar athletes that would get hurt and they would just disappear. Right. Wow. And so there was no way to track them. You didn't know what they were doing. Sometimes they'd show up in like an article in the newspaper, but other than that, you had no idea. And so some of these guys would come back and look awesome. Some of these guys would come back and look terrible. And then some would just disappear and never come back. So I started kind of wondering like what was going on behind the scenes. Like what did that come back involve, and where was that happening, and what did it look like? So when I was at Delaware for undergrad, I started hanging out a little bit in the training room and in the clinic and getting my volunteer hours and kind of seeing what it was all about. And as soon as I saw it, I knew that was what I wanted to do.
Wow. And so because being in the training room a lot, you would think, or for me, I would think athletic trainer, but athletic trainer and physical therapists are very different. So did you ever consider being a trainer?
I did. So when I first looked into it, it was the summer after my junior year was when I decided to switch. And I remember, I don't know how much truth there is in this, but I remember looking it up, and if I wanted to do athletic training, I would have had to start from the beginning, like year one, and do a 4-year program, and it only would have gotten me like an undergrad degree in athletic training. If I switched to ex-phys, I could do like an extra semester, then apply to PT school, and then get my doctorate. So it just made more sense. But either way, I think I would have been happy.
Yeah, and to my understanding, right now in today's day and age, it's very competitive. Was it still, was it even more competitive back then, or what did it look like?
I think it was probably less competitive. I know for a while I was hearing that I think like with how popular the profession has gotten, it was more people applying for less spots in physical therapy across the country. So it was actually more competitive than med school for a while.
Wow.
And it's just, I think so many people want to get into it. So it makes it tight when there's not the programs have gotten bigger. When I was in grad school, our graduating class was, I believe it was 28 people. Now they're graduating classes of over 100.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the classes are getting bigger. The programs are able to hold more people. But it was pretty competitive, but it wasn't near what it is today. I remember I always did well testing. So like my GRE was pretty good, and I had some good volunteer hours and some good recommendation letters. My GPA wasn't, I think I don't know, like mid 3s, but now you have to have like really, really, really good grades. So it's a little different. At that point too, some of the programs were still master's programs. Okay. They were just transitioning over. So for me, I know some of the schools in the Northeast that I applied to were all doctorate level programs. And so that's one of the things that drew me to stay up there.
So did you do 4 years undergrad and that was your bachelor's, and then you did 2 years as a master's?
So at Delaware, there wasn't a master's. It's just the doctorate program, and it was 2.5 years. So most programs were 3. Delaware was 2.5 because we didn't really get any breaks. So there was no like summer break, winter break. You kind of just roll through it.
Right.
And the benefit to that was you get a little bit of a jump on the job market, but it was intense.
I was about to say, yeah. Sounds rigorous.
Yeah,
no
intense.
breaks doesn't sound fun. I did a condensed program too, or 1 year master's program, but no breaks in the summer or fall.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it was over in the blink of an eye.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was a grind.
Yeah.
Okay. Very, very fascinating. And so you said you made your way down to Alabama. How did that happen?
It was just on the list. So the way that we decided where we were going to do our rotations is we drew numbers from a hat. So we had like 1 through 28, right?
Is that how it is for med school and everywhere else?
I don't think so. They do a matching process, but I don't know. I have no idea how that works actually. Okay. So for us, it was 1 through 28. And I remember I got like something right in the middle. It was like 15. And so we had 4 rotations that we had to do. So we had an inpatient rotation, outpatient, an elective, and then a rehab. And so the way it worked was there was a list of places that you could go. And so we went 1 through 28, and the first person gets to choose off the list, and you just kind of work your way down. A lot of people wanted to stay local just because it's easier.
Yeah.
I knew for me, I wanted to travel and kind of get an idea of what different areas of the country were like. So for the first one, I had a couple friends who were living in Baltimore at the time. And so I was able to stay with them. And so I chose Baltimore.
Oh, nice.
So I did the VA as my inpatient rotation. Then the second one, we went from 28 back through 1. So I was in the middle again.
Oh, nice.
And that one I chose, it was Palm Bay, Florida. So I went down there to an outpatient clinic. Then the third one was the elective, I think. And we basically did like 15 through 28 and then 1 through 14. So I had the first pick. And so for my elective, which was the one that I cared most about anyway, I remember looking at the list and seeing Champion Sports Medicine, which is where they were in Birmingham.
Okay.
And I'd heard about these guys, and like that's where you want to go if you want to, at the time, if you wanted to treat big time athletes, that's where you wanted to be. So I knew I wanted to go there right off the bat.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, because for me, I was like, it seems kind of random. Like, how did you make the decision?
Yeah.
But that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
How long are the rotations?
So the first 2 were, I think, 8 weeks.
Okay.
And then the last 2 were 14 weeks, maybe.
Okay, wow.
So I was there for a little while.
Okay. Very nice. And then while you're doing that, it's all under the, like, so sorry, let me back up question. What I'm trying to ask is you're being supervised.
Correct. Yeah.
By
So
the people at the clinic and your professors?
a little bit. So it's mostly your clinical instructor that you're assigned to, right? So you work hand in hand with the PT that you're assigned to, and they kind of oversee your clinical work. And then there's check-ins at certain intervals. There's phone calls, and I guess now they do Zoom meetings. Back then it was a phone call. If they were close enough, they'd come and do an in-person meeting and just kind of check in with your CI, make sure everything was going smoothly, make sure you're doing what you need to do. So
cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Fascinating. Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah.
I've always been super interested in, like, fun fact is I entered undergrad wanting to be a physical therapist because I tore my ACL when I was 18, got into college, and I was like, I want to be able to help people get better. And then year 2, I was like, these biology classes are hard. I mean, they're hard.
Yeah.
It was tough. And I was trying my hardest and getting B's.
Yeah.
And I was like, this isn't going to be good enough. And I was way more interested in my psychology classes that I had to take already. And I was like, what if I just change to something I'm interested in, good at? And then I switched like my junior year to psychology.
Yeah, it's funny. I know I've been there a while now because I've had a number of patients that have then decided to do PT, like gone through school, like taken the classes, gotten into grad school, and now they're like full PTs, and they were patients of mine.
Wow.
So I guess 15 years is a while, but it's cool to see. But I always tell everybody too, like, don't get intimidated by the undergrad classes because they are really hard, and it really, I don't know how much of that stuff I use on a daily basis, but I think if you could get through the grind of the undergrad classes, once you get to grad school, it changes, and it's all stuff that you're going to use.
Yeah, and it's more, I would assume it's more like application based in grad school because you have to do hands-on work and you're like working with each other,
right?
Like truly,
Yeah.
more practical.
Yeah, loved it.
Okay. So entering some fun questions, kind of. What was one of your best days at work and why?
Okay, so I have a good one. There was I gotta try not to give too many personal details in the medical field. I had a gentleman who was a like special forces in South America.
Wow.
And after he retired from that, he became a stadium jumper. Like he's the guy that would deliver the soccer ball into stadiums. Yeah. And so I remember he told me there was one stadium that they wouldn't let just anybody do. You had to have like 20 practice jumps because the wind was so bad. And on his final practice jump, the wind picked up and he got like slammed into the side of the stadium.
Oh my God.
And basically like broke everything on one side of his body. So his whole right side, he broke his collarbone and his arm and his leg and just a whole bunch of stuff. And so I don't remember like the details of how it worked, but he was literally he would come in for a morning appointment and come in for an afternoon appointment. And I've never done that with anybody else. So I'm not sure how that worked, but he spent a lot of time in the clinic. And I remember he would, ask us to film videos so he could send it back to his family of all the stuff he was working on. And so when he came in, he was in a wheelchair. He wasn't able to do anything. And over the course of a couple months, we got him from a wheelchair to like a platform walker, to a regular walker, to a cane. And so his big surprise for his family was he was going to get off the plane back where his kids were, and they were going to wheel him out in the wheelchair. And then his goal was to like stand up and then just start walking. And so I remember he like took video of it and like emailed it to me when he got back, but that was really cool. So I don't know that was like one day, but yeah.
No, that's a really great memory.
Yeah.
I almost started hearing that. That's really sweet.
Yeah.
And wow. Yeah. I was about to say it must be really rewarding because I'm sure there are days that are bad or some things that don't go as planned, but you are, helping people get better each day.
Yeah, I just love the clinic. I love the vibe of it. I love the people I work with. It's awesome. So even on the days where people struggle or I'm trying to figure stuff out or I have challenges, it's always a blessing to work there.
That's good. I was going to ask, my question really is, do you ever get bored at work? But the only reason I ask that is because in my mind, you see a lot of athletes, but you see the same injury over and over. So it's the same protocol over and over.
Right. So I actually get asked that a lot, and it makes sense because the unique thing about my position specifically is I work with basically one physician seeing one body part all day, every day. Right. So basically I only do post-op knees at this point. And it's mostly from one physician. So it would make sense that the question would be about like the monotony of it and just doing the same thing over and over. What I really enjoy is solving the puzzle of each individual person, because you can have 10 people that had the exact same surgery and they're all going to be completely different based on when they got hurt, how they got hurt, what their goals are, what their insurance limitations are, like what their mindset is. Like there's so many things that even if everything on paper is the same, it's a completely different puzzle for me to figure out.
I love that. That's actually really nice to hear as a patient and as an athlete, because people will compare themselves, if...
Nice.
Great. Is it upstairs? Yeah. Okay, that's fine. We'll hope it stops. I was asking about...
Yeah, I feel like the individual...
Yes, Steven. Okay, as an athlete.
I tell people, not only can you not compare yourself to somebody else going through the same thing, like you shouldn't even compare yourself to yourself, right?
Yes.
Like, and that we've talked about this, like this process for you is going to be so different than the last one. And there's so many different things. Again, what we hear a lot is people will go through this process when they're, late teens in high school, and then they'll go through it again. And they're like, let's say 20 years later in their late 30s. And they're like, oh, this is so much harder. It's like, yeah, you're not a teenager anymore. Your body heals at a different rate. Like there's so many different things. I do think in a short span, if there's a re-injury within, let's say 10 years, usually what I tell people, and some of it's just to get their mind right, but I usually tell them that the second one should be a little bit easier to manage. Even if the physical part of it is a little tougher, at least you know what to expect, and you know where to push it and where to hold off. And I do think that there's something about going through that where it matures you and you have some knowledge of the process. If I've done my job right, I've taught my patients enough that they know what's important and how to go about their rehab.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Because when my first few weeks, I talked about this with Firsten because I saw him a lot at the beginning of my rehab, but I was really hesitant before my surgery because I had not a bad, a little bit of a bad experience my first time around with the people that I had when I went to college. But it was just, I was in a lot of pain afterwards, and I was dreading like the lack of autonomy. Like I didn't want to rely on other people. Right. I remember being in so much pain, having like call my mom in the middle of the night to take me to the bathroom. And I'm an adult, and it was kind of embarrassing and just like a weird challenge. And so this time around, I was also like, great, I'm gonna have to go through it again. Ugh. And then whenever I had it, I was like, why am I not in pain? And why is this actually fine? And why do I feel okay? And why can I do so much more? And Firsten was telling me, well, although you've had the same injury and you're the same person, like it's going to be way different than it was before. So don't compare it to the previous one. And also mine are 10 years apart, like exactly. So much has changed. Even like obviously in research has changed. The type of procedure I could have gotten has changed. The advice you get. But like I even remember just a simple exercise is like doing a lunge, and now they say, you can put your knee over your toes. And I was like, wait, what? Why? And will you tell me like what? There's
been certain things that historically we heard and the myths about not doing leg extensions and not letting your knee come out over your toe, and I think the truth of it is there's certain movements that we have to as PTs we have to be careful, and we have to dose it properly and teach it properly, because those are things that if we don't kind of keep a close eye on, not that you're going to mess anything up, but you could definitely like make somebody's knee pretty angry, and that'll delay their progress. But no, I think through the research we've kind of proven that all those things are fine to do. And not only are they fine to do, they're important to do. And there's certain movements that are functional. Like if you come downstairs, your knee is going to go over your toe. If you bend down to pick something up from the floor, your knee is going to go over your toe. So I think if we avoid training those things, we're doing you a disservice as a person.
Yeah, that's fair. Because when I was practicing to go down the stairs, I had exercises that was helping me practice knee over toe.
So we talked about, I said I try not to let people compare within themselves surgery to surgery. Asking you to compare, is there anything this time around that's harder than last time?
No,
it's all been easier.
I think literally everything's been easier.
Yeah.
Because my first time it was ACL repair and meniscus repair.
Right.
So the meniscus like set me back in my mind. Like, you know what I mean? It was very restrictive.
Yeah.
This time they weren't able to repair it. They just gave a meniscectomy.
Right.
And so I didn't have the pain that I had. And then I don't know. I think, I had so much muscle atrophy the last time that I was worried about that happening this time, but I didn't have that. So I was excited. I was like, I still have my quads, because before, like, honestly, like maybe it's like female, male anyway, but like when you look at your body and it looks skinny as hell, like you lift your leg up and it's just bone almost. It's not a great feeling. And then I'm like, how am I supposed to run with this? Yeah. Also the last time, my body kind of forgot how to walk, and we had to reteach myself how to walk. Yeah. This time we didn't really have to do it. But I kept in mind like the things that I would remember last time, like, knee up, toe up, and then like the motion, and like those are all important, and the little things matter. And the first time around, I really I was a senior year going into college. I was already committed, and so I was really I took my athletic abilities seriously, and the fact that I had a scholarship, and I was like, I'm gonna go play. I'm gonna treat it like a full-time job. So when my PT gave me my exercises to go home for that first month, they printed it out on a sheet like they do. And I was actually checking off the box every day. I'd be like, set a timer, gotta do it. And my dad would be like, hey, have you done your homework yet? And it's my PT. So I was actually doing it every single time on the hour and checking it off to the point where my sheet ran out of boxes. And I remember coming into PT and I was like, hey, I finished my exercises. Can I get a new sheet? And my PT was like, wait, what are you we're doing the same exercises. You're not done. Right. And I was like, I finished them. And he was like, what do you mean? And he didn't understand. And so I showed him and he was like, that's so cool. And no one's done that. And he was like, let me just print off a new one, you know? And so I didn't realize that, little old Siobhan was just taking it seriously, doing everything right. Right. And
that's what matters though. Right. So you have to be intentional about it. I always tell people you're not going to get to the finish line and look back and be like, I feel like I just kind of cruised here and I didn't really work hard, right? There's a lot of work that's put into it, but you have to be intentional about it, and that's what separates the people that do okay from the people that do really well. Yeah, and I listen to my surgeons and my physical therapists because you guys know better than I do. Obviously, I feel in my body, I feel my body better, and I'll be able to be like, okay, this doesn't feel right or whatever. But I trust you guys and my surgeon. And so the surgeon was like, and once he cleared me to do stuff, or once you guys cleared me, I'm like, okay, I could do it. I'm going full throttle. Yeah. I can kick a ball as hard as I can. You're telling me that my knee's supposed to be able to? Right. Cool. I'm going to do it. And then it happens. And I'm like, it worked. You know what I mean? Do you find the challenge in that this time around where you're feeling really good and you feel like you could do things and we're telling you to kind of chill out a little bit? Is there a challenge to that? There has been a challenge. I think it was right before I started running, I was feeling really good. I was like, I can do yoga. I feel like I could run. Yeah. And there was a week before I'm like, they're going to let me start early. Yeah. And still you guys were like, we're going to do things that will get you into running, but we're not starting you early. And I'm just eager to get back any athlete is. So I did have a little pout session about it at home. I was like, I'm feel good, I'm doing everything right. I wanted to kind of be ahead of the game. Sure. So that was the part, for me that I was like, this is frustrating, but again, I have to be patient. Patience. And that's the challenge for us with the population that we see and with how well people tend to do. It's not really pushing people. It's more pulling back on the reins and saying hey, chill out a little bit. We'll get there. You're where you need to be. You can't rush it. And I think the problem too is when you get to the point that pain is not the limiting factor and it's healing timelines. That's me right now. Yeah, that gets tricky because people they think if it doesn't hurt, maybe I'm not doing any harm. Right. Yeah. But I find comfort in knowing
Maybe not comfort, but I know that I should be listening to you guys, and I'm not gonna like go behind and like try to go run a marathon,
Right.
like or run a 5K.
Yeah.
Yes, I've been cleared to run, but like in intervals.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I think it's more of like me asking questions like, hey, can I go and kick a long ball? Am I allowed to do that?
Right.
And I'll ask like the smallest things like, can I ride a bike today? Like, can I ride a real bike and not a stationary? So I just stay curious.
Yeah.
And if it's a no, then it's like, darn,
Yeah.
when can I then?
Right.
But yeah, that's been a little bit different for this time around.
Yeah.
Also, social media for me has been different.
Yeah.
Because last time I wasn't like logging anything. This time, like you mentioned, that athletes in the past, like they got injured and just go off the grid, or like you wouldn't know. Now I've kind of tried to like document the journey, really because of who I am and what I do, just so that people could see like the mindset behind what I've had. And I want to try to show like my good days and bad days. And I keep like a journal, and I've kind of died down. Like I was doing it daily, and now it's maybe weekly.
Yeah. Those bad days are rough, huh?
Those bad days, yeah. I've had a few rough bad days, but like really not many, like 3.
Yeah. I think the bad days for most people are like up here, right? It's like the mental bad days. And I always tell people too, to me, what makes the difference, like it's not what you do on the days that you come in and you feel great. Because those are the easy days. But if we can take a day that you come in not feeling great or feeling like you're progressing, or take the bad days and kind of squeeze what we can out of it, like that's what's going to make the difference. So especially at the beginning, like there's rough days, but if we could get something out of it and chalk up some wins, it just sets the tone for the rest of the rehab. But it's a grind. It's a grind.
It is a grind.
Yeah.
It's a grind. You got to be patient. It's a lot of small things at the beginning, but I'm like goal oriented, and I find that, like directing yourself towards small goals will help. Sure. Because then they become bigger goals.
Yeah. And there's plenty. The range of motion, leg raise, like all the stuff at the beginning, you got to celebrate the big wins, getting on the bike. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you think you've seen an increase in ACL tears?
I mean, I think... So from my perspective, like we were talking about this the other day, like I don't remember any of my friends when I was in school tearing their ACLs, right? Obviously research in the numbers, it's different. My perspective of it, I don't remember any of my friends going through this, tearing their ACL. I'd never heard about anybody tearing their ACL until I got to college. So I don't know, like for me, if I've definitely seen, that's all I do now. So I have a biased view of it, but, there's so many conversations to have regarding that with, younger kids specializing in one sport. So they're playing the same sport year round. So there's positives and negatives. I think that the kids today are getting into strength and conditioning a little earlier, right? They have a little bit more of a heads up as far as like nutrition goes, right? So like there's certain things that they're doing better. But with being in better shape and developing and getting stronger also comes more force when you plant and cut, and sports are definitely more competitive now than they used to be. And there's all these different levels to participate in. So I think there's probably more of an opportunity to get hurt.
That's a good answer. Yeah. Because there's so many factors. It's hard to like boil it down.
Yeah.
I know that they're really trying their best to like see the research, and like people are, you'll see on Instagram like a stat, and it's like increase in women's ACL tears is whatever %. And I'm like, is that actually true, or is there just more awareness around it now, more publicity?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I do think maybe back in the day when people got injured, they would just kind of stop playing sports. And now that it's so popular, people know that there's an avenue to get back.
Yeah. What do you think? Okay, well, I don't know. I'm like already guessing your answer, but what do you think about a 28-year-old soccer player who, I should have used a different example, who is going through their second ACL tear, and they're thinking that they could play, but they're like, oh, I'm 28. Should I just kind of relax and like work a different full-time job and like have a family? Or are you saying like, yeah, your body can do it and you're capable of it, and if you like put your mind to it and work hard, it's possible?
Yeah. So I think for me it depends on what that person's goals are, right?
Okay, it's me.
Yeah, depends on what that person's goals are, because everybody's at a different place, right? So my job is to at least keep that on the table as a possibility, right? And then if you feel like that's something that, I think it's also unfair to ask that question too early of yourself, right? Because if you I get so many people that, tear their ACL skiing, and then, day one on the table, they're like, oh, I'm never skiing again. And then at 4 months out, they're like, can I go ski like tomorrow? So I think it's a little unfair to ask that question too early, but when you start getting close to the finish line and it's a real possibility and you feel good and you feel strong, I think what we do, our job is to not have any activities that we say, oh, you shouldn't get back to this, right? Now, there's certain things that I think you have to understand the risk. Yeah. But like if I've done my job and you're strong enough and you're able to move the right way and we passed that functional testing and I guess that's what it comes down to, right? Is the $1 million question is, when is somebody ready to return to sport? And for us, we use a specific barrage of tests that people have to pass in order to prove that they're ready to return to their sport. And so, unfortunately, as a profession, we don't really have that standardized across, the country or the world. If you go to 100 different clinics, you'll have 100 different criteria to return to sport. I like to think we do a pretty good job because our test is looking at a whole barrage of different aspects of sport and of movement. But yeah, I mean, the goal would be by the time that person gets cleared, they shouldn't have any limitations. And if they want to go back and play sport, they should absolutely be able to.
Right.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I've already made my decision. I just wanted to know because like I said, I listen to my PTs and my doctors, and I'm kind of black and white. Like if you said, yeah, for 28, we've done this, you pass this test, you're good to go. You can literally try whatever you want. Yeah. I'd be like, cool. That would make me feel confident. Yeah. But if you're thinking like, oh, actually at this time in life, since it's your second one, or if it was the same knee, like at this age, also being here in like this part of the world or whatever, like if you have this deficiency, we'd advise you not to.
I do feel like there are some factors, like if unfortunately there are people out there that, they're on their fourth or fifth and it's, non-contact injuries and maybe we start looking at like how their body's built and there's certain measurements that we look at these days as far as like tibial slope and just different things to see if this person is more prone to these injuries. And then I think, at a certain point, if you're wearing out your cartilage and wearing out your meniscus and you have a history of these issues, I have had the conversation where it's like, hey, we only get so many miles on this, like, you got to kind of choose where you're going to use them. But not really for 28-year-olds.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Great to hear.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you also mentioned, time is fine, by the way. Also mentioned like, there are, so in the clinic, I've noticed a lot of football players. They obviously have a lot of injuries, and I didn't actually realize how often they get injured and sometimes have the same injury over and over. And like that to me is really disheartening because I don't know if I can personally take the same injury over and over. But is that kind of something that football players know going into that sport, that you might get injured 1, 2, 3 times? Big injuries? I
don't think that's specific to football. Obviously, like what you've seen is a function of like what time of year we're in, and
fair.
That kind of shadows that a little bit. The physician that I work with, most of the professional athletes we get are NFL, but we see athletes from pretty much every sport. So depending on the season that we're in and what people are playing, that kind of reflects the patients that we get. But yeah, I think, at that high level, there's always going to be a risk that's involved. And so, what I try to do is have the conversation with people that getting out of bed in the morning is a risk, right? Anything you do is going to involve some risk, but you can't live your life just not doing anything. I think we've gotten better on the physician side of things with measuring, like I said, taking measurements of different things to see if people are more prone to certain injuries, and now we can intervene and change some of the structure of people's legs to help reduce that risk.
Like muscle wise?
Like bone wise. Yeah.
We can restructure. Wait, what?
Yeah, like changing the angle of people's bones.
How can we do that?
It's called an osteotomy. So they basically go in and they cut the bone. They shift the angle.
Oh, wow.
And then they use a plate and screws and hold it in place. There's some big surgeries, but if you have these people that continue to have these injuries and surgeries over and over again, at a certain point, we have to fix the root cause, which sometimes is malalignment. So, that's a possibility, and we're seeing really good outcomes with it. It's just it's a bear of a rehab.
Wow. Yeah, I was about to say that, and setbacks a little bit, or just like time. You just gotta wait.
Just time. Yeah. There's so many restrictions, and the healing timelines are so much longer, and the I always say like the equation is the more that you have to have fixed leads to more restrictions, but also more incisions, which leads to more scar tissue. And that's kind of the recipe for like a stiff knee. So that's kind of the challenge with those, is to manage how quickly do you go, how much do we push.
Right. Okay. Wow. Interesting. Learning a lot. Okay. A little more fun questions.
Yeah.
Do you like digging into people's scar tissue? Be honest.
I didn't used to. Yeah. I think as a student, you're always a little bit like hesitant to hurt somebody. And so like I'll watch my students, now, and that's how I was when I was a student, but you kind of just like, you kind of like pet their knee because you don't want to mess anything up. And now I'm like, I'm not doing you any favors if I'm working on it lately. Like, we need to get in there.
That's fair.
But I take a little bit of joy out of it, I think. Yeah.
Does it I don't really, mine's like kind of gone now at this point, but does it like feel weird? Do you like? Yeah,
you can feel a restriction. So we always call them like little horns or little, whatever. But you can feel like a little, almost like a marble under the skin, and it's just like a bunch of collagen. So if we get in there and work it, it tends to soften up and make a difference and allow people to move a little bit more smoothly and feel better. It doesn't feel good while I'm doing it, but
yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's when I would say no pain, no gain,
Yeah.
because it is quite painful, especially at the beginning. It feels like someone's stabbing you with a knife, honestly. And I haven't been stabbed with a knife, but that's what I would imagine it would feel like.
Yeah. Yeah. The question I always get when I work on people is like, have I ever gone through that? Right. I'll knock on wood.
I was going to ask you that.
I have not. So,
So you haven't had any like major surgeries? Obviously not.
No.
Good for you.
No, not yet.
Don't play flag football or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, because I feel like a lot of the reasons people go into your profession is because they've, done like I was trying to, or they see it and just.
I agree. I think like the vast majority of people, it's because they had a positive experience and like, got into the clinic and saw what was going on and found something cool about it and decided to kind of pay it forward and help other people. So, I think I'm a little rare in that sense that I never really spent any time, thankfully, in the training room and never really had to deal with any major injuries. It was just kind of being a fan of sport.
Wow. So you're a unique one.
Yeah. Lucky me.
So talking a little bit more about the clinic and getting into your fun questions.
Yeah.
Eric has a bracket, and every week you go in, it's like a food bracket. I don't know if it's been anything other than food before, but for my experience in the past 3 months, there's a bracket. You go in and you like rate food. He'll put it like, ice cream sundae versus banana split, and you have to choose one, and then it makes it through, and then there's like an ultimate favorite dessert ever. Yeah. Where did you come up with that? And yeah,
it's just we like to have fun, right? we like to play good music and joke around and mess with each other. It's a fun group. Yeah. But I like to try to have as much fun as possible throughout my day. So we started the bracket. I think I was scrolling through social media and I saw like a fast food bracket probably like a year or two ago. But the restaurants that were listed, a lot of them weren't local. So we decided to create our own. So we came up with 32 local available fast food restaurants, and we had like a huge like March Madness type bracket. So it ended up, I think Chick-fil-A beat Whataburger in the final.
Crazy. Oh, I love both
that
of them.
Right?
Yeah, I think it is.
And then after that, like while that was going on, which that bracket took a couple months to finish, just changing the board out every week. And then we went from that into
desserts. No,
appetizers. We're in desserts. Appetizers. That's right. Appetizers. And the cool thing with that one was we did like regions. So there was like a fried appetizer region, a wedding appetizer region, like a game food. And I forget, the other one was like dips. But it was a lot of fun. So now we're in a 64 dessert bracket. So this week will be the final matchups of the first round. Okay. But this one's going to take a while. I think it's going to take us like pretty much to the end of the year.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know what's next, but yeah, whether it's that or the stupid questions or just we like to have fun.
Yeah.
I think having so many young kids, the whole process is intimidating, and a lot of these kids, these rehabs definitely mature you as a person, but I think going somewhere where you're going to have fun It just makes the process so much easier. So I like to try to maintain a light environment, and we have such good conversations, whether it's about sports or food or just random stuff. So I try to keep the mood light and keep that going, and just have something that people could look forward to through the process. So yeah, the bracket is a fun one.
It is a fun one. Yeah, it's like it's not distracting and it doesn't take away much time either.
Right.
So
right.
Yeah,
but it sparks debate, and like there's good conversation about it, and yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
Exactly. Okay, cool. Okay, now is the time where you and I are gonna go back and forth. If you have your question, so not like super like speed round, but
sure.
I know you're gonna catch me off guard.
Yeah.
You can ask a question and then I'll answer. Then I'll ask you a random question.
Okay. I'm gonna revisit one that we've talked about.
Okay.
Because I'm gonna lead off with like it's my favorite question.
Okay.
I was told I couldn't use this in residency interviews because we didn't want to like scare anybody away.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So it's, would you rather eat poop flavored brownie or brownie flavored poop?
I asked my boyfriend this today.
Yeah. What did he say?
He said the correct answer. I know there's no right or wrong.
Yeah.
He said
no, there's a right answer.
He said poop flavored brownie, because then you'll rest assured that you were eating something that's made from like eggs and milk.
Correct.
And whatever powder.
Yeah,
and
that's
it just
the right
tasted
answer.
kind of bad.
Yeah, that's the right answer.
In the clinic, just so everyone knows, I impulsively was like, oh, chocolate flavored poop, because I don't want to eat something that tastes gross. But then you're like, wait, what did I just eat?
Yeah.
That's disgusting. I don't think I can live with myself.
I told you this, but the wild thing is, so I've been asking this question for about 15 years. So I must have asked like hundreds of people this question, and it's legit like 50-50 right down the middle, which blows my mind.
Do people go back? It's probably because they just impulsively answered. Do they stick to their guns after it?
Most do, yeah. Most do. There's a little bit of peer pressure. Like, again, it creates like some waves at the clinic, and then it sparks like some serious debate. So sometimes there's some peer pressure, but most people stick to their guns, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so just so everyone knows, my answer is poop flavored brownie.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yours is too.
Yeah.
There's a correct answer.
Yeah.
Okay, my question to you is, would you rather know how you're going to die or when you're going to die?
Okay, so I have a counter question.
Oh my God. Okay.
I know. This is how it works.
I knew this was going to happen.
So my counter question is, if I knew when I was going to die, would I be like immortal up to that point?
If you knew when you were going to die.
Like, if, let's say I found out I was going to die in like 20 years. Does that mean in the next 20 years, nothing can kill me?
Oh, that's a great question. It mean, sure.
Then I would choose that. Like we've talked about these in 15 years with the ridiculous amount of conversation we've had in the clinic. The problem is like we've had these conversations, and I have too many counter questions.
No wonder you have so many counter questions.
I know.
Okay, yeah, sure. Go
but
ahead.
It's important to know.
It is important. I know, and I wouldn't have thought about that, because I would have just been like, okay, I would relax for the next 20 years, be like, cool, I will see tomorrow.
It is though, because then you don't have to worry about anything, right? But then you could also like run through traffic and like jump off stuff, and like I guess you could get hurt, right? You just they wouldn't kill you. Yeah.
Okay, let's say that my answer is no, that you're not immortal.
Okay, it's just like
this isn't a video game.
If you take care of yourself. Yeah. Then that's what you'll do.
Yeah.
Then,
like don't put yourself at risk. Don't purposely try to die. And accidents won't happen.
I think I'd still want to know when.
Really? You want to know when? Because here's my thought is like, think of the day when you're like, okay, February 21st is coming around. You don't know if it's going to be a car accident. You don't know if it's a natural disaster. You don't know if you're going to have a heart attack. Like, you're just on edge that whole day, or like the anticipation would kill you.
Yeah. But if you knew how, but not when,
you're avoiding like
then, but it's going to happen regardless. Right. So like, but then you don't know, you can't plan for it. I feel like at least knowing when, you could like YOLO a little, and then like, like just get yourself ready for it.
Yeah. You can say your goodbyes. You can prep. You can prepare.
It would just suck if you found out when, and it's like, hey, 4 days.
Yep. Well, imagine like if everyone knew and you guys would like throw a party.
Yeah. You'd have to have like a calendar at work.
Or what if you forgot?
Yeah.
You're like, oh shit.
Yeah. I'd probably get it like a tattoo or something, just to like, just to remind me.
Okay. So you would choose.
I think when.
When.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think when.
Your turn for question.
Okay. Would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
One horse-sized duck?
Mm-hmm.
Little ponies?
Like a huge duck or a bunch
Fight
of
like I had
little
to
horses?
kill them, or
Yeah, we'll say to the death.
to the death?
Yeah.
Oh, probably the giant duck.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, it was scary, but like I could shoot it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just like I'd be exhausted after the other one,
I feel like ducks have like sharp beaks.
and that they could like.
What if you don't have a gun?
Okay, well that's a different story. An arrow.
Do you just carry all the time? Strapped?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, don't miss.
I'm trying to think of another thing I could do.
At least I feel like with the duck-sized horses, you could just like kick them.
Yeah, but they won't all die. Now I'm thinking of like jumping on little baby horses.
Like how would the little baby horses like hurt you?
Kicking you.
Yeah, that would hurt. I don't think that would like. I don't know that they would do serious damage. Like if the duck like snapped at you and I think they have sharp beaks. No, like that could hurt. I don't know.
Wait, one more time. They're little baby ducks or little baby horses?
No, like one huge duck.
One huge duck.
Or little tiny horses.
Oh, hold on. I think a huge duck.
Yeah.
Or tiny baby horses.
Yeah, like little duck-sized horses. I mean, 100 of them is a lot, but they're like, they wouldn't all be able to get to you at the same time.
I'd try to fight the duck.
Really?
Big duck.
The big duck.
Yeah.
Huh.
Because you've got like a lot of weapons. They also.
I mean, I don't have any weapons.
Well, I don't either, but I feel like I would, if I was going to prepare for this, I would prepare with weapons.
Yeah.
And if not, then like, I'm trying to think, like I can't
I
hide
just
in the
need
water.
like a golf club with the little tiny horses.
Okay, well, that's a weapon.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's just so much effort.
Yeah, it is.
Anyway, I choose the giant duck.
Okay. Fair.
Okay. Simple, but sweet or sour?
Sweet or sour?
Candy.
Sweet. I'll take salty over sweet, but when it comes to candy, I'll take sweet over sour.
Okay.
My sister likes the atomic warheads.
Ah.
You know those?
Yes.
Yeah,
I do like
can't do
sour,
that.
but I wouldn't like.
I like citrus. I like lemon stuff.
Okay.
But
same.
I think I like sweet over sour. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna do a few more.
Okay.
Pizza or pasta?
Pizza.
You didn't let me finish.
That's my number one.
What
That's I told you I'm not a favorites guy. That is one of the few favorites that I have.
Okay, ready? Pizza or burger?
Pizza.
Dang. What kind of pizza?
New York pizza.
Describe to me your last meal. You know you're gonna die because you have the date tattooed on you. What are you eating?
Okay. Counter question. What are the like stipulations of this meal? So the way that I usually phrase it is you get like one appetizer, an entree, two sides, a drink, and a dessert.
Okay.
Like, is that what we're following, or is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You get a full course meal.
Okay.
You're eating good before you die.
Okay.
What are we having?
I think pizza. Like I could come up with. We did this in clinic with like Cullen and Ian. We did like the bougie version where you'd go like steak and lobster and all that. But I think realistically, if it came down to it, I'd go pizza. I'd probably do some sort of like maybe maybe oysters
Ooh.
as a to start, and then maybe like I need a potato like fries or maybe mashed potatoes and like mac and cheese.
Really?
Yeah.
You want mashed potatoes?
Yeah.
Okay, and mac and cheese.
And mac and cheese, and then pizza, and then
this all doesn't sound like it goes together. Like
it doesn't, but like, what's it gonna kill me? Like
no,
and then I don't know. I'm not a huge dessert guy. Maybe like a key lime pie. Yeah.
Really? Is that your favorite dessert?
It's one of.
What are the other few?
Banana pudding is up there. Chocolate mousse. Yeah, I don't know. Those are some.
Okay.
Chocolate chip cookie.
Okay. So All right, really? You'd rather have like a cookie for dessert?
Yeah, so like Tiny's Milk and Cookies.
Okay, yeah, you've been telling me to go there. I haven't gone there yet, but I will be going because of how frequent.
Yeah, I would take that.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm listening. I'm all ears. Like,
yeah.
For people to listen, whoever is listening right now, it seems like Eric has frequented himself around every restaurant in Houston. It seems like.
Yeah.
Because anytime if I want a recommendation like in Italian, I'm like, hey, and you have like, do you have an Excel spreadsheet or you just remember all this?
No, it's just memory.
What you should do an Excel spreadsheet.
I should. So I've had patients that have like shared with me these really complex like rating systems and
holy cow.
I don't know. The cool thing is I've also, because of the patient population I see, I've had some patients that are chefs in town. So like that's really cool.
That's
and then
awesome.
I get to get a little background info on places.
Cool. Yeah, I guess I always I had a narrow mind and thought that it was just athletes that go there. No, it's everyone.
It's everybody.
Okay.
It's everybody.
Okay, you can ask me a question. I jumped to
let's see. What about
we'll do two more each.
Okay, how about this? If there was a movie about your life, who would you want to play you? Or who do you think should play you?
It could be like a celebrity or a normal person? Or should it be a celebrity?
Like an actor.
This might not be a good answer because I don't really watch many movies and I'm really bad at naming actors. But honestly, probably Emma Watson, just because
that's a good one.
Growing up, people said that I kind of look like her.
Okay.
I look like Hermione.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like she could do things that I've done in my life. Like she fought dragons.
Yeah. Yeah.
And was in Harry Potter.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think she's one of those people not a lot of people dislike too. Right? She's like widely liked.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go Emma.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was gonna do like another food one, but I want to make it cooler. But you've had so much more time to think about cooler questions than I have.
Yeah, to be fair, I didn't prepare. It's just like they're
I know
there.
they're just
I have a good one though.
Okay, go.
So the one that I wanted to ask you specifically is who would be like your dream podcast guest?
Nick Saban.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say my favorite DJ, which is Fred again, but he's an artist. He's not like an athlete or anything. Right. I don't think so. But Nick Saban, just because I love I've specifically look up his speeches.
Yeah.
And I've heard him like post game talk, and also he has like a record winning program.
Yeah.
And so that just fascinates me because those are teams that you only see those groups of people for like 4 years, maybe 3, maybe 2 and less. And how do you get so many people on board right away, to win?
Yeah.
And
to like squeeze what he gets out of them, like
every time, like, what are you saying? What are they doing? What are they not allowed to do? What are they allowed to do?
Yeah.
How do they have so much respect for you? Like, how do you do that in such kind of a short amount of time?
Right.
Over and over again.
Yeah.
And I like the way he speaks. It seems like everything he's learned is kind of like what I wish to do in my profession, but he has so much experience.
Right.
And I don't have that experience yet, but he knows it because he's been there, done that. But yeah, Nick Saban.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, and I don't even love football or Alabama football, but he's a great coach.
Yeah,
I definitely look up to him.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That was a good question. Nick, oh my God, I would freak out if you liked this.
Let's get hashtag get Nick Saban.
Okay. I was gonna ask you a question. It's food related, but you're having a guest over. Say who's somebody really important to you, or somebody that you'd love to cook for?
Somebody I'd love to cook for.
Is it mom, grandma, your best friend, your boss, someone you need to wow with a meal?
Maybe my family, my parents and my sister. I mean, I don't think they would tell me if anything sucks. The crazy thing is we weren't a huge food family growing up. Mm-hmm. My mom made dinner every night and it was fine, but we weren't a huge cook together or we would go out to eat for special occasions and we would just kind of have normal meals most of the time, and for special events we'd have certain things that I liked, like lasagna or baked ziti or whatever it is. But I think I enjoy cooking kind of as a break from rehabbing people, I guess. It works so busy and work so many hours that it's nice to have something else So usually that's like watching sports, although that's through a rehab lens now. And you know, you watch things differently now when there's so many injuries and trying to figure out what people go through on the field. But yeah, cooking's kind of a nice break from that.
Okay. And so, sorry, I didn't really finish my question, but that was important for you to know who you're cooking for. You're cooking for them. Okay. What meal are you making?
Okay. So I have a couple. It would depend who I'm cooking for.
You're cooking for mom. You're cooking for your family. Okay. Mom, dad, sister. I don't know if you have a brother.
Yeah. So I'm probably doing, you know what? I don't think I've made them. So I found this recipe for these steak sliders. So it's on like mini pretzel buns. Ooh. And it's like filet.
I'm so
like
hungry
medium
right
rare
now.
filet, and then with a little bit of like horseradish cream sauce, little bit of blue cheese, some arugula. It's awesome.
Have you ever thought about being a chef? Like, do you think you're good enough to be a chef?
No. No.
Okay.
No, I don't cook. To be fair, I don't cook a ton. Mm-hmm. But I enjoy it. Like I love the cooking shows, like the social media stuff. I think that's usually my answer when people ask, like, if you weren't doing this. So that was going to be my next question for you. Like, if you weren't doing this, like, what else would you do? And I always say chef. Like, if I wasn't a PT,
if I wasn't like, I don't know, doing what I do now, probably be like a writer. I like to write.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Journal for some magazine. Or organization.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like it's expressive and I type really fast.
Yeah, I do not.
It's like one of my superpowers.
Yeah.
I took type to learn way too serious when they taught us in elementary school.
That's good.
Because I'm competitive.
It's a good skill to have. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, one last question. And then you can ask me one last question. Okay. And then I give you the floor to kind of to say whatever you want.
Okay.
And then we'll conclude.
Yeah.
The last question, normal really. But what advice would you give to an athlete walking into your clinic for the first time with an ACL injury?
Yeah, so at this point, I kind of have my spiel down, right? So a lot of times with these young athletes, my first thing is just like get them comfortable. So I always try to break the ice. I'll ask them if they have any cool nicknames. I'll ask them what their favorite food is, like just to get them like to relax a little. It's an intimidating atmosphere. But usually on day one, it's tough to get buy-in on day one, right? Because people are in either off their mind on pain meds or they're in a ton of pain. So not a ton of pain, but a normal amount of pain. But I would say that early on, it's reminding people that this process is not going, like this entire process of the next 6 months is not going to be as hard as day one is, right? Like it's tough to see that, and you're going through it and you're like, I don't know if I could do this. I think reminding them that like tomorrow is going to be better than today, and the day after that is going to be better, and just give me like 2 or 3 weeks of really grinding and working through the tough stuff, and that'll pay off, and then we'll be in a much better place. Because in the end, probably 80% of the rehab is just showing up and working out, right? Like we should be past the part of pain being the limiting factor after a few weeks, and then it's just the grind of rehabbing and getting stronger. So like the tough part is really the first couple weeks, but if we can make it through that and you could really kind of, keep your foot on the pedal, then we'll be good.
Okay, I appreciate that answer. I do want to add on to that. What would you do if come week 3, people are having limitations and they're having complications?
Yeah, I mean, we see it pretty frequently with the how complicated the procedures are that we see. And so, I think it's identifying the issue, not keeping it from the patient and not trying to minimize. Like I tell people, I'm never going to sugarcoat anything, right? Like if there's something that needs to be addressed, I'm going to tell you early, like, hey, we need to get this going a little bit, right? So for me, it's handling that with the patient. It's handling that with the physician side of things, right? Like I like to let them know early, like if something isn't right, I never want that to be a surprise upstairs.
Right.
So I'll always call ahead and be like, hey, just so you know, like we're struggling a little bit with this, but like here are the things that we're doing for it. And I'll keep you updated and let you know how it goes. And so that way, at least if they need that appointment or if they go upstairs, then they know, what to expect. So I think the same thing, facing the patient, it's like, hey, this is where we should be. We're starting to fall a little bit behind. So we're going to have to pick it up. Like just do the best you can and just getting them on board. And then there's certain things, like everybody has their own unique challenges, right? Even across the exact same surgery, some people might struggle with getting their knee straight. Somebody might struggle with getting their knee bent. Some might struggle with getting their quad to fire. So there's, for me, I have to identify what that is. I always try to frame it as like a priority list, right? And that priority list is constantly changing and, reprioritizing itself into what they need to work on the most. So it's educating people enough that they kind of know, what's important, and then making sure that they know where they are as far as where they should be.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No
answer.
problem.
You can ask me a question if you'd like.
Okay. What about...
It's your last
Let's
one.
see. Yeah, we used to have this big bowl when we would do residency interviews, and we'd like put all the crazy questions in a bowl, and then the person that interviewed would have to pick one out.
Oh.
And then they would have to answer it. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So that was always fun.
Came with a bowl.
I should have come with the bowl.
I'll start doing that.
Yeah.
For
Yeah. I'm trying to think of what my favorite ones were though. All right. If you could, this is not what's your favorite food, but if you could only eat one thing for the rest of your life.
Sushi.
Okay. That's a good answer because you get some variety in there.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's also my favorite, but it's versatile.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good answer. That was an easy one though.
Boom.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, so to conclude, I've already asked you if you, what your advice would be to an athlete, facing a knee injury or ACL for the first time. But now's the time if you want to give anyone a shout out, give a favorite quote, or just give some extra advice. The floor is yours.
Yeah. Don't really have a quote. I think just overall, these injuries happen and it puts people in a tough spot. I am probably to a fault a glass half full guy. I always try to spin things to the positive. So, what I would say, anybody going through an injury like this, I really do feel like the silver lining is it matures you in ways that you can never imagine. It gives you a certain perspective on sport and on work ethic and like really kind of grinding for your goals. Not that we want anybody to have to go through one of these, let alone two or three of these, but I do think that there's a positive to be taken out of it in the big picture.
Yeah.
Even if it's just getting the chance to discover something that you might be interested in doing as a career, right? Like there's always going to be positives to take out of it.
Definitely. I would say that I'm an optimist like yourself. I would assume you describe yourself as an optimist. Seeing the silver lining, the bigger picture. And I would agree that, it matures you and that you learn more about yourself that you didn't know.
Absolutely.
And it ultimately makes you a more resilient person, better equipped for what you're going to take on later in life.
Yeah, for sure.
So cool.
For sure.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, with that being said, it's Halloween.
It is.
Today when this is aired.
Yeah.
So happy Halloween, everybody. Thank you, Eric. I will see you back at the clinic weekly. Again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to answer my questions, give me some of your cool questions. And if anyone wants to contact Dr. Chicas, they can. How so?
Yeah, so the easiest way is if you're looking for physical therapy, just give our clinic a shout. It's the Rocket Sports Medicine Institute, and we have a couple locations around town. So it's part of Memorial Hermann. So we have a website, and feel free to reach out. I just treat knees, but we see everything at all of our clinics. So
awesome. Cool. I'll link it below. Again, thank you so much, and happy Halloween, everyone. Bye.